when I heard voices from a lounge and stopped. Just the voices sounded funny, all whispery and rapid. I recognized John Dancer's voice.
"We can't do anything of the sort until after the rendezvous, and you know it."
"No one will notice," said a woman, perhaps Eileen Breton.
"You hoped no one would notice,"
Dantor replied.
"But you can't be sure that Duggins or Nordoff wouldn't stumble across it. We have to wait on everything until after the rendezvous. You know that."
Then I heard steps across the Velcro carpet behind me, and with a start, I began to walk again, past the door of the lounge. I looked in. John and Eileen, sure enough, among several others. They all looked up as I appeared in the doorway, and their conversation abruptly died. I stared at them, and they stared back, at a loss for speech. I walked onto the dining commons. A rendezvous in the belt, a group of people, not the superior officers of the ship, in on this event and keeping it a secret from the others. A locked storage hold. Things were not falling together for me. After that, I began to see things everywhere. People stopped talking when I walked by. There were meetings late at night, in bedrooms. I walked by the radio room once, and someone was sending out a long message through the coding machine. Quite a few of the storage room doors were locked, back behind the farm, and some of the ore holds were locked as well. After a few days of this, I shook my head and wondered if I were making it all up. There were explanations for everything I had noticed. Shipboard life tends to become cliquish on the best of runs. Even though there were only 40 of us, divisions would spring up over the year of an expedition, and these were troubled times, back on Mars. The consolidation of the various sectors under the central coordination of the committee was causing a lot of dissatisfaction. Sectionalism was rife. Subversive groups were everywhere, supposedly. These facts were enough to explain all the little factions I now noticed on the Rust Eagle, and paranoia is one of the most common shipboard disorders. Seeing patterns is easy in such a heavily patterned environment. So I began to discount it all. Perhaps we were carrying something to Ceres for the committee, but that was nothing. Still, there was something about the atmosphere of the ship in those days. More people than usual were jumpy and strained. There were mysterious glances exchanged in an atmosphere of mystery. But here, hindsight may be influencing me. The facts are what I want here. This record will help me to remember these events many years, perhaps centuries from now. And so I must set down the facts, the sharpest spur to the memory. In any case, the third sign was unmistakable. By this time, the sun was nearly between us and Mars, and I went to the radio room to get a last letter off to my fool of a father, in jail temporarily for his loud mouth. Afterwards, I went to the jump tube, and was about to fall down to the living quarters when I heard voices floating down the tube from the bridge. Had that been my name? I pulled myself up the rail to the steps that led to the bridge, and stayed there, eavesdropping again. A habit of mine. Once more, John Dancer was speaking.
"Emma Vile is pro-committee all the way,"
he said, as if arguing the point.
"Even so,"
said another man, and a couple of voices cut over so that I didn't hear what he said.
"No,"
Dancer said, interrupting the other voices quickly.
"Vile is probably the most important person aboard this ship. We can't talk to her about any of this until Swan says so, and that won't be until after the rendezvous, so you can forget it." That did it. When it was clear the conversation was over, I hopped back to the jump tube and fell down it, aiding the faint acceleration gravity with some pulls on the rail. I ticked off in my mind the places Swan would most likely be at that hour, intent on finding him and having a long talk. It is not healthy to believe yourself the focus of a ship-wide conspiracy. I had known Eric Swan for a long time. Before the turn of the century, every sector ran its own mining expeditions. Royal Dutch looked for carbonaceous chondrite. Mobile was after the basaltic chondrites in the Dud Belt. Texas mined the silicate types. Chevron had the project of pulling one of the Amors into a Martian orbit to make another moon. This became the moon Amor, which was turned into a detention center. My father lived there. So each sector...